Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Welcome to the Talking with the Experts Online Business Summit.
Hello and welcome to the May 2025 Talking with the Experts Online Business Summit, where innovative business owners and industry leaders come together to share insights and their strategies and some success stories. This online event is designed for entrepreneurs who are eager to learn, connect and grow their businesses. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, this summit offers a wealth of knowledge from experts across various industries. Gain actionable strategies, discover the latest business trends, and learn how to overcome challenges in today's dynamic marketplace. Now, my next guest is Noah Healy. And Noah is coming to us and discussing market design, how making a low-cost, stable environment is great for our businesses. Now, the markets are an 800-year-old AI technology that happened by accident. Modern computer technology is causing them to break down in ways that are difficult to diagnose and even more difficult to fix. It's a coordinated discover markets provide a simple mechanism to build new markets that work for the productive. Now, Noah is a market designer and game theorist on better economic systems. After training in nuclear engineering, my goodness, he worked for tech startups at the peak of the dot-com boom. Becoming fascinated by the mathematics of information and computation led to patent work on a better commodity market design. Noah, it's unmute and it's lovely to see you again. I haven't seen you in absolutely for ages. Where have you been hiding?
Hi, Rose. The patent work is ongoing. In fact, I'm presently suing the patent office in federal court. So that's what was taking up a lot of my time over the last 6 months or so.
Wow. So do you want to share with us, but what they've done wrong?
Certainly. So the patent was actually given a notice of allowance back in 2020, which the patent office proceeded to ignore. And when pressed for a reason, the best they could come up with is the claim that the patent was worthless. You're not allowed to patent things that are worthless. Unfortunately, that claim devolves down to an argument that one and two are equal to each other, which is false. So when presented with that as baldly as it was, they re-allowed the patent in 2022, and then 3 weeks later, they withdrew that allowance, claiming that it was in fact too useful. You're not allowed to patent all of economics. This is a little uh, uh, interesting because they had actually already allowed a patent on all of economics. There was a group called Lang et al. Or Lange et al. That had come up with a mathematization of parimutuel systems, and as part of their patent demonstrated how you could use it to duplicate the existing markets. So they'd already granted that patent. The Lange patent and my patent are again mathematically distinct, which they had conceded and they haven't taken it back. So that claim was also impossible. So we appealed to the patent court, which is still under the executive. They came to a decision last July where they affirmed both of the previous reasons. So both that it was useless and contained all of economics, uh, without addressing any of the mathematical shortcomings of either of those arguments. And so at that point, in our system, I'm here in America, the only choice once you're done with the executive is to move to the judiciary. And so the next court is the appeals court for the federal circuit, which is technically the second highest court in the country. We had some back and forth. They're, as far as I can tell, presently engaged in perjury, basically claiming that one does two equal two, and that other things that they've said in the past which are impossible, are true. And we'll see what judges think about it. The case includes significant amounts of background information. Obviously, I've been dealing with the patent office for the better part of a decade. In fact, very close to a decade at this point. And so the case is actually bound in a couple of books and is, I think, a little over 900 pages long. So the judges are probably going to take a while to read through and come to a decision.
Wow, sounds very complicated.
That's one of the primary difficulties of computational mathematics. In one sense, it's surprisingly simple because it turns out that it doesn't take very much to get to universal computation. The ability to add and the ability to write things down is enough by itself to get to universal computation. On the other hand, it is in some sense the most complicated thing we're capable of imagining because we can prove that we can't imagine anything more complicated than what it achieves. That was part of Noam Chomsky's work on languages.
Oh, okay. So I want to talk about, what led you from going to nuclear engineering to becoming a market designer.
Um, Basically, I've just been following mathematics my entire life. Nuclear engineering had the broadest range of mathematical disciplines engaged in its curriculum, so I went after that. Nuclear encompasses civil engineering with the design of, large-scale reactor plants and shielding and so on, but also highly advanced differential equations and modeling for both the electronic parts and the nuclear parts, as well as enormous amounts of statistics to handle how radiation works. And um, one of the more powerful methods that we've evolved to use computers, something called the Monte Carlo method, was actually developed by the people who were working on the hydrogen bomb. And it's essentially a way to use computers to give you a picture of the statistical behavior of systems that you can simulate but not model. And it's shockingly effective. It's actually built into how AIs uh, that are using reinforcement learning are cracking games like chess and Go and poker and so on. So getting into computer programming gave me an entirely new form of mathematics to master. And as I watched sort of company after company not be able to tip over the edge and saw the markets foundering in, you know, around 2001 to 2008, the flash crash and so on. I got interested in, uh, on the one hand, alignment mathematics, trying to make these sort of infinitely complex AI systems do what you actually want them to do in ways that you can understand that that's what's happening, and market understanding. How can you cope with this chaotic over system? And I came to recognize that these were actually the same problem when I used a method I developed for the first on the second, and found the coordinated discovery market a radically more efficient way to build a marketplace.
Right. So what is the relationship between technology and markets? And I'm not quite sure which markets you're referring to. Is it like buy and sell? Is it the finance sector? What
So I'm
market?
primarily talking about the finance sector, but technology has been a critical piece of financial dealing for quite some time now. So if you think about cash registers, we would not be able to have, grocery stores without cash registers. It just would not be practical for pricing to be done on a per item basis without that normalization and without standardization. the quality of the people that you'd have to hire to be able to understand what the price and the haggling range was for every single item on a floor would be prohibitive. The cost of operation would go through the roof, and we would see those sorts of department stores, things like that, collapse if we did not have cash registers, UPC codes, all the rest of it. Uh, the financial markets are much the same thing. The modern financial market was born from the telegraph, which then created the ticker tape machine, and we are well advanced from there. But that kind of communication, creating regional and then national and then global coordination, is what makes these financial markets valuable. Unfortunately, at in the last half century or so, we also can use computers to exactly mimic our behaviors within the marketplace. And so today, most of the actors in the financial markets, which dictate our economic destinies, are just computers that, you know, don't have any goals except for attempting to increase their bank accounts. And so the markets have become incredibly noisy, incredibly unstable. And as long as we own computers and use these markets, they're going to become noisier and less stable as we increase the amount of total computing power we have access to, which is obviously the primary goal of the entire tech sector.
Mm. Interesting. It's a little bit above me. I'm not I'm not a numbers person at all. And so I guess for me to understand that, I'd need to have a little bit more clarification on the components of a business deal, I guess perhaps even, in relation to the technology and the markets.
Yeah, sure. Well, so the existing financial market essentially is about business deals, and it says that you're going to standardize what's being traded so that everybody that trades within a given market is trading exactly the same thing. For shares of companies, this is very straightforward. So if you have one particular share of Meta or Amazon or Tesla or whatever, and I have some other particular share, it makes no difference which one of those two things each of us owns for general stock certificates. And so you could sell yours and I could sell mine, and they'll sell for exactly the same because they're exactly the same thing. We do the same thing for physical commodities of general interest. So wheat is traded pretty much by the boxcar lot and at particular grades. And one boxcar full of wheat at a given grade is the same as any other boxcar of wheat at that given grade. And so at that point, the negotiation process comes down to how much do you want and how much are you willing to pay for it. And so each transaction has a buyer and a seller. And so what the financial markets do is they essentially rip that contract in half and says that the buyer is going to write down a number on their side, and on the other half, the seller will write down a number, and the markets will simply create a couple of decks of potential deals that it keeps sorted all the time. And when it looks at the top of those decks, if those numbers are the same or crossing, then it will just sew that together and say, hey, this contract just happened, put it up so that everybody knows what trade just occurred. And that's it. That's all it does. It does it very, very, very quickly, literally a million times a second. But that's how everything from gasoline to copper to rice gets priced here on planet Earth. Uh, on the other side, what I say is we have three factors on that contract. There's a uh, producer that has product, there's the consumer that has cash and wants product, and there's a price. And so what I did was rip the contract into three pieces, created a specialized prediction market where multiple people could come together and create commoditized price information. Another specialized market where multiple people could come together to create commoditized product availability, and a third where people would come together to create commoditized demand cash. And those three markets essentially balance each other out. They squeeze out the individual human desires that might exist about the relationship one person would have with another. And because they're abstracted through the market, all they want to do is achieve the highest throughput possible. Uh, and so people who are producing things can sell into this market at the highest profits possible because that's what makes the predictors the most money. That's what provides the highest quality stream to the consumer. The consumer wants a high quality and always available stream. And so it does that as well. The forecasters or negotiators want to be able to turn their information into money. It does that as well. And so this this three-way system squeezes out a lot of the noisy back and forth that the existing markets are built out of.
All right. Okay. So, in simple terms, the market is based on buying and selling, basically. So that's you buy something, you've got a need for something, you go and buy it, and then you can sell it on to somebody else if you wish.
You can, although in a CDM, they're, they're, the market has probably squeezed out the ability of the middleman to transact the actual good because that model where you can take temporary custody of something and then sell it on to somebody with differential interest uh, is an arbitrage, and that arbitrage allows the market to adjust its prices so that it is correct. The sort of prediction negotiation market of a CDM essentially creates an arbitrage and arbitrage. So if you could foresee the possibility of buying something and then passing it on later at a profit, what you could do instead is adjust the future trajectory of prices to eliminate that possibility and get much more money than you would from simply arbitraging the number of transactions that you would ordinarily be able to you know handle with whatever resources you have, because what you've actually done is gained a reward from making the entire marketplace more efficient.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. So I guess Noah, we're all trying to build a more stable and profitable economy. What is your advice to be able to do that?
Well, there's kind of two pathways. Unfortunately, CDM is the only solution at the large scale that I'm aware of in the public domain, and I'm looking. So if you want sort of regional and national and global scale markets to exist, then you basically have to adopt coordinated discovery markets or go study a lot of math and come up with a different solution. The other path would be to abandon uh, the existence of such things and go local and self-sufficient, which I don't recommend. But that has happened before in human history, and it would involve basically taking all attention away from existing large-scale social structures, governments, markets, even religions, in favor of purely local and familial ties. And so that's basically it right now.
Okay, so um, the world at the moment is absolutely in turmoil with, certain government decisions that have been made overseas. What is that? How does that bode for other countries? With how can they make their economies more stable based on what's happening in versus other countries?
Right. Well, again, exactly the same thing. So country scale organization actually requires markets to exist. those countries can either adopt CDM outside the United States. It's open source. It's open source inside the United States, although that would be withdrawn if the patent were to be extended. So governments or other interested parties in other countries can go look this stuff up. It's all on the internet. In fact, I've been doing this for so long that you can actually ask things like OpenAI, and I don't have a Twitter account, so I haven't asked Grok, but Google's AI project, Gemini, and Anthropic and other AI systems will tell you the basics about CDM and give you some links to, my white paper and so on. So you can just do that. Or, math is free. You can go study the basic mathematics and try to come up with some other solution that solves this problem. And the existence of my solution implies that solutions exist, so there definitely might be other ones. This is the best I could do, but that doesn't mean that you could not do better or that even doing worse would still be good enough. Aside from that, countries are going on the ash heap. Uh, the countries that presently exist depend on markets to function. Markets don't function unless we build markets that do function. The countries that presently exist won't. And people that depend on them will fail that dependency. And the people that decided to get completely out of them and away from them will make it through. We're looking at either an industrial revolution style change where what we mean by government, community, culture, and so on changes in very fundamental ways. We call it the Enlightenment for a reason. Or we're looking for a, fall of Rome, or collapse of First Dynasty in China, or similar type of arrangement where we also stop thinking of governments and so on in their present terms, because markets are markets are a key pillar that allow economic functioning at large scale. And anybody who just follows the cursory news can see that ours have become very erratic by historical standards, and that it's been getting worse for decades. And if you look into the mathematics I've looked into, and what I described, that's essentially inevitable. If we have technology, we won't have markets, and if we don't have technology, well, we are also dependent on that. So uh, it's not, you can't pick. Um, we're either going to lose both of them, or we're going to figure out how to join them together. CDM is the only public proposal, so I would strongly recommend getting on board.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm understanding is that everything revolves around mathematics as far as market is concerned.
Um, one of the one of the sort of fundamental breakthroughs of the early 20th century, we had kind of a series of things with the introduction of quantum physics, the introduction of relativity, first special, the general by Einstein. Alan Turing actually proved that there was nothing that we could imagine that was not mathematical. He proposed his design of a computer to encompass every imaginable action that could be undertaken, and then used it as a tool for a mathematical proof that actually proved that something was impossible. That thing was impossible because it would require the imagining of something that couldn't be imagined if it were possible. So in point of fact, well, we aren't nearly good enough at mathematics to be able to take advantage of this. We essentially know for certain that everything that we can imagine is mathematical.
Mm. Yes, I guess yeah, I think even nature's mathematical, really, isn't it? I mean, certain flowers have a certain number of petals, or you know.
Oh, yes, yes, we see numerous patterns. One of my favorites, the cicada prime numbers. So there are roughly three breeds of cicadas around the world, with 17, 19, and 23-year uh, hibernation cycles. All of those are prime numbers. The reason for that is that prime numbers are harder to sync up with. So if they were on an 8-year cycle, or say 17 and 19, if they missed by a year and went to an 18-year cycle, then predators that were on a 2 or a 3 or a 6-year cycle would be able to sync up with them. And of course, it's much easier to be on 2 or 3 or 6-year cycles than 17 and 19.
Mm,
And so by doing that, they're able to break up their action both on the prey side and on the predator side, and be harder to predict. And we see this in other cycles as well. Uh, Oak trees don't produce the same number of acorns every year. They have cycles, and those cycles tend to devolve to usually smaller prime numbers, but still in an attempt to effectively call their predators. And and of course, the Fibonacci sequence is also quite famous. So if you take two numbers and you add them together to get the next number in the sequence, you can start 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. This produces an exponentially expanding sequence. Um, and if you draw a spiral on that, then you get a fairly beautiful spiral to the human eye. But we also see very similar types of spirals to that in nature, in the pattern of sunflower seeds or in the pattern of nautiluses, spiral shells.
mm.
We'll follow that or other fairly similar difference patterns. And again, it's sort of for exactly that reason.
Right. Very interesting. Noah, you can, if let me start that again. If you want to reach out to Noah and find out a little bit more, either about his white paper or any of the things that he's discussed today, you can find him on LinkedIn at Noah-Healy, and he can be contacted at noahhealy@yahoo.com. And he has a website, is coordisc.com, and he's got a patent pending, which is his white paper if you want to reach out. All the links will be available if you have chosen to become a VIP member of this summit. You can also find him on YouTube at Nikki Haflinger. There's a short video on a podcast on Spotify, and also his patent is on change.org. Noah, it's been an absolute pleasure. If you were to share some little tidbit more about life in general, what would that be?
Um, well, I guess I'd say, echoing the last one, um, the kids these days do have a lot of uncertainties, but I think what we're suffering from is a an abundance problem. So it's sort of a good problem to have, if we can just sort of work out our fundamentals. We've got these cool toys. We could be a lot richer, a lot happier, a lot healthier. Um, we just need to figure out how to make these things not kill us instead of instead of like they're doing now.
Yeah, I think there's there's a lot to be said about all the great gadgets that we've got out there. But I think if we move back to the fundamentals of life, like we did when you and I were probably kids, like playing outside and coming in when it got dark, and all those things, and we stopped pampering our children, I think there would be a lot happier world. Yeah, all right. Noah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us at the Talking with the Experts Online Business Summit with your host, Rose Davidson. We hope you found the insights and strategies shared by our esteemed presenter valuable. Remember, your journey to success doesn't end here. Keep applying what you've learned, stay connected with our community, and continue to push the boundaries of your business. Until next time, keep thriving and striving for excellence. Goodbye, and see you at our next summit.